first Smart Café that we open up to a wide audience, but we thought as we are approaching the end of this project that we really would like to open this last session up to a wider audience, which are you. So we are really, really happy that you are present in so big numbers, and you will see how this cafe works. And then this last cafe, the 10th cafe, is also special in the sense that we are presenting Stanz, which is one of the two villages, three villages that we worked much more closely together because they got a slightly bigger support, again selected through an application process among the 21 villages through the project to implement smart action. And we really wanted to share with you the more technical side and both social terms and technical terms, the ideas, what they've been going through and what they produced during this process. So it's a slightly longer cafe than the normal sessions, but we really want to get, as usual, to the practical things. So it's really, it will be very practical. The whole session, they will talk about what they've done and why they've done it the way they've done. So I will actually stop here and enjoy the session, and please take your coffees or teas or breakfast, so feel free and informal. We will listen to a series of presentations now. First, I will pass the word to Michal, who was our national expert, then to Fritz, who is the mayor of Stanz, Rainer and Mirella, and I think maybe Alex will join in as well, but the experts and the local people who worked in Stanz on this project. So thank you, and with that I pass the word to Michal.
All right, so good morning. I'm Michael Fischer. As Adina mentioned, I'm the Austrian national expert in the Smart Rural 21 project. And yeah, I'd like to start off introducing Stanz. And in doing so, I would like to go back to 2020. And as Adina mentioned, in spring 2020, we all started the process of searching for suitable pilot villages. And we also did so in Austria, and we received several very good applications, but the one of Stanz was really outstanding in that sense. And the thing is, and I would share the second picture of Stanz with you here. Stanz is located in a rather remote area in Austria, in a region severely affected by economic change during the past decades. People have to commute outside the village to work, etc. But at the same time, you could also see that this is a village that has a strong will of improving its own and current situation. And this was very much supported by a very new political movement that's happening there. And I'm sure Fritz will tell you some more in a second. And so it was clear that Stanz was a village that wants to take off, that wants to gain momentum. And so it could be a very interesting village to bring into the project to accompany on its way the next steps, and also to learn from, because they went into the project with experiences from previous participation processes, and many of you will know this map here that's kind of shows the way the smart villages went. And Stanz didn't start from zero in this process. They had a foundation of previous participation projects, which informed very much the first steps. So they knew what people are looking for, what people need, but we saw that the Smart Village project, or the Smart Rural 21 project, added value to this knowledge, because they were able to kind of condense this previous knowledge into a strategy. And this was one of the first tasks where I accompanied Stanz. Yeah, and the result was this Smart Village strategy for Stanz that you can find also online on the Smart Rural 21 website. This strategy focused on 3 fields of action. it was strengthening civil engagement, tourism development, and the third was sustainable energy and sustainable energy community development. And a decision had to be made on which topic the village would then focus on, and it was the decision to take the energy community topic because there is and was a really interesting window of opportunity at the moment, and there was also a great interest in the local community, but the colleagues will tell you more about that later on. And given the fact that Stanz was also selected, as Edina said, as one of those 2 or 3 villages where they could go more into depth in the implementation phase, Stanz started then with further approaches to work on the energy community topic by doing baseline analysis, conducting case studies together with Pavlos from Ecolis. And this was another added value from the Smart Rural project, to get this view from outside, to get experiences, to enhance the own capabilities. So that was something that I also learned from in my monitoring exercises with Stanz later on. So I don't want you to talk too much about the content, because you'll hear this in a second from the colleagues. I would like to finish off with some observations from my side, and I thought it would be best to kind of frame it with what's smart about Stanz. And in my point of view, there are 4 things that makes Stanz smart. On the one hand, it's a shift in scope that they made. It's I mean, a municipality could restrict its focus on providing basic services, but Stanz sees its own role as a community that acts as a social entrepreneur, to take topics, to further develop topics, to bring in innovation, as they did with the energy topic. So that's something new, that's something additional to I would say, the standard role that a municipality could cover. Then there was also visible that there is a shift in the approach. So there are a lot of municipalities that work with a kind of a typical planning paradigm, kind of a stringent way of planning things, of planning development, surely involving people, but following kind of a planning logic. And Stanz did this differently, putting people more in the focus of development, people and their needs, talking a lot to people. And you will hear that also in how they worked in the energy topic. It's a lot of feedback loops, presenting things to people, learning from their feedback, etc. The third shift I would see as a shift in involvement. So there are a lot of municipalities that see the formal institutionalized actors in the role of the decision makers. But Stanz sees, and the municipal representatives also see themselves more in the role of capacity builders. They want to support people to take their own actions. And that's also something that you can see in the energy topic. They support people being their own energy providers. So that's very interesting to see here in Stanz. And the fourth observation, probably, it's not so much about solitary projects. It's about a holistic approach. It's about an integrated approach to bring the municipality of Stanz one step further. And you can see this in the Smart Rural strategy, but also when you then listen to how they proceeded in the energy topic, how the interaction between many different fields occur in this municipality. And all these shifts, in my point of view, were a very important prerequisite to realize this combined innovation, to use technical aspects, to use new technical developments and combine it with social innovation. So that's really interesting about Stanz. And without further ado, I would like to hand over to Fritz to go into that more deeply.
So thank you very much, Michael and Edina, for this nice introduction. My name is Fritz Bichler. I'm the mayor of Stanz, and I want to give you a short insight what they are doing the last 7 years. We are very honored to host this coffee. Thank you very much for supporting us. Special thanks to the Smart World 21 team and all our experts. They made it possible to live this way in the last 7 years. Well, we, as Michael mentioned, we are a citizen list, and we are in charge the last 7 years. So we are in the second period, and the next elections will be 2025. So when we got in charge, we asked people what they really want us to get engaged, and they said us there are 5 fields. One of the fields is energy, and energy we will give you insights in different projects. Rainer will do and explain you what we're doing in terms of local energy groups, and Mirella will give you a short introduction about the technique called energy token, where we are thinking about to implement this in our daily life. Stanz is a very small community. We are about 1,850 people, and most of them work in the high-tech industry and steel industry, which is located outside of our community. So it's about 15 to 30 minutes outside, and they go there to get their income, and they come back to sleep in Stanz. We are about, we come out of agriculture and forestry, and we have about 80% of our area is forests. So biomass is a big thing in terms of energy, and Rainer will tell you more about that. The main thing in terms of energy was to get more independent of all these global energy markets. You know, 7 years ago, nobody talked about this energy crisis. As you know, energy issues are very topical at the moment. So we try to get more independent, and we set up a lot of projects in terms of how to get how can we change our fossil fuels we use a lot of. We have gas, we have petrol, and many things, and we move to non-fossil fuels. So it's very important for people to get independent. Every day I had to talk to people who are not able to pay their energy costs. You know, we have people in our community. They have maybe 1,000 euro, 1,200 euro for pension, and normally they pay about 50 to 100 euro. Now they pay 300 to 400 just for gas, for example. So that's a really big problem, and we are not. It's not possible to explain something if all these projects we are doing now, if they have sense or not. People are very interested in our projects. So, for example, the local energy group has 70 members. Everyone wants to spend money and wants to invest in PV and other things. So it's not an issue to get them engaged. They are very interested to be part of this process. I want to hand over to Rainer Secker, who is a member of this local energy group. Thank you for your interest, and Rainer, the word is yours.
Thanks a lot. So 1 second. Can you see the presentation now?
No, now yes.
Yes? Oh, sorry. So, okay. Another try.
Maybe just before you start, Rainer, Fritz, do you want to say a few words about the photo where we are sitting? Because that was a comment I explained at the beginning, that unfortunately my computer is not smart enough to handle this task of putting this photo, but I saw many of you did, and you can find the photo in the chat if you want.
Yes, the background picture is it's Marburgteich. It's a little lake which is very important in our social life. We use it for recreation, winter and in summer as well, for swimming, bathing, and in winter for Eisstock. You know, I don't know the right expression, but it's very, very important in social life, and it's a very nice spot for recreation. All our people go there in summer and have fun. So we decided to give you this background picture to have an idea what where people are going when they have fun in Stanz.
Okay, so thank you, Fritz, and I will go on and maybe the deepen view aspects Fritz has mentioned. So thanks for the introductions and for the numerous participation today. So we are very happy. My name is Rainer Rosecker. I was born and grew up in Stanz in Mürztal, and after finishing school in electrical engineering, I left Stanz for studying sociology. Became then self-employed, had been for years working in the area of regional and local development. And somehow our paths, Fritz and mine, came together. In the year 2016, Fritz mentioned this, and we started a very broad participation process for the municipality development in Stanz. Today, I really want to focus on the project we have been doing together with Caliber Consulting and Austrian Blockchain Center. And so I can present it today with my colleague, Mirella Berntaler. So, one second. Yeah. So shortly about overview of the presentation. So I just want shortly to go into the baseline conditions and the contexts Fritz mentioned also before, then on the project goal and on the methodology, and then a short insight what had been the result from our process. So within the project team, I had been focusing, or I with my team had been focusing on participation, on engagement, on social field research, somehow to take a look at what are the needs on the social side, and Caliber and Austrian Blockchain Center focused more on the technical, economical side. So shortly on the background, I think everybody of you know about the clean energy package from the European Union. The Commission published it in 2016, it was finalized in 2019. So the overall goal of this package is to decarbonize the EU's energy system within the line of the Green Deal. And on from 2019, EU countries had 1 to 2 years to convert the new directive into national law. So one core issue of this directive are the new definitions of energy communities. So there's the distinguish between citizen energy communities and renewable energy communities. Both of them thought that they have the possibility to make peer-to-peer energy trading without the big companies. And the difference between citizen energy communities and renewable energy communities is indeed geographical. So the renewable energy communities are based on a local or regional level. The citizen energy communities are based on, for instance, a national-wide level. Austria implemented the law in 2021 with the so-called Erneuerbare Ausbaugesetz. If you translate it, it's Renewable Expansion Act. And so in other things, about targets in the area of energy transition. So the launch of energy communities had become possible. And so Michael talked before about this window we saw in the year 2020 when we formulated the Smart Village strategy. So we knew that this law will come where we can create new possibilities for energy transition on the village level. Meanwhile, and also Fritz mentioned, of course, there are another relevant and influencing factors. So for instance, when the IPCC published a new projection on climate change this year, of course, this is a big issue in energy transition, but of course also the war in Ukraine with this turbulences coming with this next by to the social and human level, also on the energy markets and the volatility we see every day, for instance, yesterday, and bringing people more and more into this uncertainty about their own energy supply. And so therefore we are facing overlapping crises where we have to find answers, and we really try to find an answer on the local level, because we think the local level is a basis where we can experiment, where we can find new ways for proceed and multiplicate it on the different stages. So because of these factors, of course, the European Union reacted this year. So for instance, with the Repower EU initiative and the European Solar Initiative, so to really rapidly decrease the dependence on Russia, to get energy self-sufficient, reduce GHG emissions, and the real issue is to ease permitting procedures and eliminate administrative obstacles for renewable initiatives and energy communities. So one goal is that at least one renewable energy community in all municipalities above 10,000 inhabitants should be founded. So it's seen that these energy communities play a really pivotal role in the energy transition process. And it's said that it's a key that community-owned initiatives like these energy communities should have and must have a clear legal framework and a strong support to multiply across Europe. And so we are very happy that we can discuss this today, because this is a really issue we think how to multiply these experiences. So with the status quo in May 2022, this year, 7 member states of the European Union implemented more or less fully, and the other ones are more or less on the way to implement this green energy package. So Austria is considered to be somehow pioneering in the implementation of the green energy package. And for instance, so the goal for the Austrian government is to be climate neutral by 2040, and by the year 2030, so in 7 years, energy should come 100% from renewable sources. Maybe there's and hopefully there can be an acceleration in the process now. So Fritz mentioned before our initiatives in the area of the energy transition. So in 2019, we started with a research and development project that is funded from the national level with around 700,000 euros. And the goal is to achieving energy autonomy in the village center. So to get real autonomy there from non-renewables, and to develop and use their own energy resources, beginning from biomass. So there's 80% forest in Stanz. Then, of course, using the solar power and the possibility that private households can become such a key players also in the energy transition. And then, of course, using hydropower and using wind power. So wind power, there are wind parks in Stanz in Mürztal. So there's a broad portfolio in renewables. In 2020, the village center had been strengthened. New sustainable buildings in wooden structure had been opened. A new grocery had been opened. A biomass plant for local energy production started to operate. So this was somehow the outcome of a 4 years also a participation process. And with this year 2020, it was really a milestone also to gain trust in people that this participation can bring positive outputs and strengthen the community. So this was also the time where the Smart Village strategy was formulated, as Michael mentioned. And of course, it was also the time where the pandemic and Corona came to us, and it didn't make it that easy to really work with people in this engagement and participation processes because of lockdowns, etc. But in 21, we started a so-called rural pioneer community. So to have a core group who really think about what could innovation be in the energy transition and what further energy-based public and private services and value chains could be considered. So now I want to shortly go into the Stanz token project, into the implementation project, about our goal and methodology. So our initial research question was what preconditions are necessary to create a digital local currency for the community of Stanz, which is based on an energy token issued by the renewable energy community in Stanz, the Stanzertal. So what does it mean? We started with this question into our field research. And for us, it was somehow clear that we must develop a more or less narrative about this project goal, or about this what we think we want to do in innovation, because we wanted to avoid technical terms like blockchain, then getting communication with the broad population. You know, when you name blockchain, everybody thinking about Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is connected with speculation and crime, etc. So we try to avoid to come somehow into these discussions. And there was also the issue that since quite many years, I think 10 years, there's a shopping voucher in Stanz where you can purchase goods and services in Stanz, in local shops and at local businesses. So the idea was to bring together this voucher, this analog voucher that already existed, and it was well accepted in the population of Stanz, together with technical innovation within the peer-to-peer energy trading within the energy community. So as we always try to combine in Stanz in Mürztal, so we have technical solutions, and we have so many technical approaches that can really bring us more and more further within all these challenges we have to face. So, but the big issue is how can we really implement it into our society, and how can we combine it with social innovation that it really can gain impacts within the field we are working. So this was the idea here. And so we thought that digitalization of the peer-to-peer energy trading can bring us possibilities to make electricity consumption and tariffs more flexible, so that we can have an automatization behind that. Maybe with smart tools, etc., energy is consumed at time periods when there's a lot of energy within the community. So an automatization process to make this more flexible. Also coupling of different sectors of energy production, for instance, power to heat. So if electricity is not used in a moment, we can somehow transform it to heat, and to heat up the biomass facility, for instance. So there is, and it was said that blockchain technology could be a quite interesting technology to make this digitalization process for the energy community. And then we thought, yeah, so if we use this technology, maybe we can combine it with this existing Stanz voucher and make a digital voucher system, a digital Stanzer coin based somehow on the energy production. So the idea was you can earn Stanzer coins, e-tokens, through energy trading. So when you sell energy you don't consume to your neighbor, then you can get paid with Stanz coins, but also through voluntary work. It should be possible to earn such Stanz coins, or also to incentivize, for instance, sustainable behavior, climate-friendly behavior, or if you launch initiatives in this direction within the community. So this was the ground idea, really to connect, for instance, the local and private energy production with services, for instance, with the e-taxi in Stanz, together with selling goods, for instance, at the local grocery. So we started with our field or engagement process in January 22, after the last lockdown we had here in Austria. And it was an information event or a town hall meeting. So we sent an information to every household in Stanz. We have 700 households. And we have been thinking, yeah, we would be lucky if there are 20, 30 people interested in the issue of the foundation of an energy community. And we have been very happy because there have been more than 70 interested people attending this event. So it was the initial information about the idea on the energy community, and also about the idea to combine energy production with a local currency. So we collected contacts of interested people, and it had been also from January starting possible to sign, to become member of the energy community. And then in February, we started a series of focus group discussion, workshops and interviews, really specific on this issue, what such a combination of digitalization of the energy community with a digital local currency system can bring for the people, for the private households, but also for the community and for Stanz itself. So should be possible, for instance, as I mentioned before, to shop at the local grocery, or if the sun had been shining, you go for a coffee afterwards, and it would be directly you have amount for buying this, or go for a beer in the local pub. So after these workshops and focus groups, we condensed our results and finished this field research phase with an expert meeting and an open space conference beginning of May this year, and had really lot of information. This is just a limited example of it, and we really tried to typologic it to gain information for our project and to find the basis for further considerations into the direction, is it feasible to introduce such a system in Stanz? And so just a few results, you can read it in the report. I think you got it all, the report. So when we look at different stakeholder groups, so business and companies have a high acceptance. They see that this could be a possibility for the businesses. Necessarily is, of course, technical connectivity and the re-exchange into euros, maybe beginning from a certain level. And so payment of taxes for the municipality would be suitable if it is, for instance, automated in this local currency. Prosumers and innovators, for instance, say it's a good way to connect energy with the dashboard, to a wallet on your phone, to trade energy, and to combine it with a local currency, to strengthen the site in Stanz. And it could be a convenient way to use the Stanz vouchers. So because for the analog Stanz vouchers, we for sure have an age gap. So it's mainly used by older people, I would say. For instance, younger generations, they are used to, meanwhile, play with the handy and do a lot of the things in a digital way. For the community itself, so before we had been thinking about maybe there could be a remuneration for instance, voluntary working people. This in the focus groups had been so critical. For instance, what is 1 hour worth from different people. So it was more the idea to initiate an approach to support households that could be affected by energy poverty, to rising prices, for instance. And so maybe it could be an approach in the direction of a solidary energy community. Meanwhile, the renewable energy community is founded. It has 65 members, so more or less 10% of the households in Stanz. So half of them are prosumers, half of them are consumers. During the process or after the process, and also in exchange with another project at the European level, we try to make conclusions how to optimize such processes. There have been guidelines for collective actions, and so we really got learning processes, as I said before, to create this narrative, how to engage and how to integrate people, and how to really make an integrated process with the population and the people for to go together into this energy transition process. Because for us, this energy transition is a real new possibility to participate, to facilitate participation processes in a village, because of course there are, in the moment there's another need and urgency right now, but energy is in general an issue that people of course have an intimate ultimate interest into to deal with it. And so I think it's a good opportunity for municipalities to take this issue in their own hands. So thanks a lot, and I hope it hadn't been too long.
No, that was great, Rainer, a very deep insight into what you've been doing. And we've got one more intervention from Mirella, who represents the specialist expertise from the more technical blockchain side, if I'm saying it correctly, but Mirella, you will correct me if it's not. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, everyone. I want to start with a short introduction, which is, can you see the big screen? Is it fine?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. The Caliber Consult Agency is a consulting agency which is run by Alexander Baldela, who is also here today, and myself. We do consulting in token economic systems. We look at existing systems and recommend feasible ways how to implement blockchain-based solutions. We work closely together with the Austrian Blockchain Center, which is a research organization very closely connected to the University of Economics in Vienna. So we're very happy that we could have the opportunity to work together with the community of Stanz on this project. And I will just go on and start with the next one. Token economy for Stanz was the topic, and I just repeat again, we wanted to look at how to generate a Stanz token. And the hypothesis was that we wanted to combine a digital local currency with the renewable energy community in Stanz. And so out of that, we had to generate a research question for the token engineering process. And that was based on the fact that we had two systems which we would merge in a way. We had a local currency, which is the Stanz voucher. We have that in Stanz. And we have the possibility of basing the management of the renewable energy community of Stanztal on a blockchain-based system and generate energy tokens. And the research question for us was, is the creation of a digital local currency for the community of Stanz, which is based on an energy token issued by the renewable energy community, feasible and advisable? So we looked at both systems and compared the mechanisms in these two systems to find whether it was a basically good idea to go down this road and merge the two systems. If you look at the token economic system, just for the general understanding, this is a very simple picture and demonstration of the system. You have in the middle, you can read this cloud, this green cloud, which says smart contract. Basically, a smart contract is not a contract as we understand it, that you sign something. It's a smart contract is basically a programmed process between two participants. So it is a code. And sometimes we joke about it that the person who came up with the word smart contract was completely misleading a whole generation of people who are discussing about blockchain. But what the smart contract does and what the whole system based on the blockchain does, it omits the third party that would be necessary to monitor the transaction between an issuer and a consumer. So if you look at this picture here, we have the energy producers on one side, and we have the energy consumer on the other side. And we would have in our world, we would have an intermediary who would sort of like monitor the system. So that would be, for example, the grid operator or an energy agency. And if one would produce energy, it would go to the grid, it would be monitored by an institution, and this institution would commission the energy to the consumer. In the blockchain system, you don't need this intermediary in a person or in a company, but it's automatized by the smart contract, so it runs on the system itself. If you look at this system, for example, it would be that the energy producers, they generate energy in whatever ways. We were talking about photovoltaic devices. It could also be basically, it could also be the community owning a windmill. It could be the community owning a water plant. Energy is created. And in this case, where the energy is created in the peer-to-peer process, it is issued into the grid, and it is issued into the wallet. The wallet is basically a digital device that is, you could also say it is a sort of like personalized management board, where you can see how much energy you have produced. And this energy that you produce, that is visualized in tokens. So tokens, basically, it's also a world that exists already in industry. It has been existing for several years. A token is just a piece of information in the blockchain system. This piece of information can contain value, which would be then the coin, or it can contain information like how much energy you have produced. So for example, this token could say you have produced 1 kilowatt hour, and this 1 kilowatt hour is now featured by a token. The energy itself will go into the grid, but the token will remain in your wallet as a proof that you have produced this energy. And now this energy, if it's produced, it belongs basically, it's in the grid. You could store it in a battery as well. And the token is in the wallet and can be exchanged with another person or another consumer or another entity that would be the energy consumer. So the wallets exchange the information. One person gives a token to the other person. The other person gives back the euros and buys the token off, and then goes and then issues the tokens back to the grid and will receive energy. So you always have the grid as an underlying factor, but what we are looking here is a digital layer where you sort of like can trade something that is already existing in an underlying layer, and you pass it on from one person to another. So if we look at the next picture, just quickly, what is token engineering? Because we talk about engineering, it sounds very technical. The process of engineering is basically the process of designing a token economic or crypto economic system. Very important in this is that there is already an underlying economic system in real life. So the blockchain system is not there to solve basically an economic problem, as it is basically a database that facilitates processes in an already existing economic system. What happens in token engineering? The token engineering process is an analysis methodology, and it has three very interactive steps, which is the discovery phase, design phase, and the deployment phase. It is very important to understand that for this project, we looked to the discovery phase only, which is basically a very big part, which is you try to understand the ecosystem firsthand and to try to analyze the stakeholders and create a stakeholder matrix by which you then can deduct rules for the design phase. So you will see how the token flows would go, how certain participants interact in the economic system. And for that, you first, in the discovery phase, will have to identify the participants of the system. The design phase then starts with running basically tests and simulations on the economic system that you would like to establish by tokens. And in the deployment phase, you deduct rules out of that will be then the underlying structure of the smart contracts, because you have to write a complete software program, which is basically then implemented in the deployment phase. You will also run some simulations in the deployment phase and sort of very much structure the economic system of in the token economy. You select the parameters, you decide on the governance choices and go into setting up the blockchain system. For the blockchain system, it is important to know that we are talking about a decentralized ledger system, which means that it is very advisable at the moment where you have several participants that are basically not really trusting each other. So if you look at the renewable energy community, I don't mean by trust that people distrust each other, but they have their own interests which they want to be see featured. So with an renewable energy community and several people who produce energy, it would be advisable that these people could have an automatized process of seeing what their output is and also what their use is in energy. And this would mean that for this system, blockchain-based monitoring would be a very good solution. And how would that look like? Rainer mentioned the stakeholder analysis, which was a very good basis for us to look at the stakeholders that are operating in the system. And we mean the Stanz energy ecosystem, because we always, from our point, where we start from our starting point, said that we need the energy token as a basis for a digital currency. So first of all, we needed to look at the energy ecosystem and see who are the users, what is the core of the system, and what are the indirect stakeholders. And if you look at this graph, you can see that the core is the Gemeindestands, and of course, the renewable energy community, which is in this graph, it is stated as e.g. Stanzertal, which is the German name for it. And this core is basically running the ecosystem. It is responsible for decisions. We will see that it is responsible for management decisions also. This core is important for governance decisions, for example. The users then are different participants in the energy system, energy ecosystem. That would be the household with the prosumer, or the household with only the consumer, which means that we have households which will have the possibility to have photovoltaic devices on their roofs, but there will be households who do not have the means to have these small power plants and will only be consumers in the system. So they have different roles. Then you have associations, initiatives, voluntary work, which Rainer mentioned already, which is a big part also in the community of Stanz and community life of Stanz. You have local businesses, which would be general businesses. It could be the bakery, it could be a carpenter. And you could have local businesses like farmers, which have different needs and also maybe different ways of energy production and output. You have individuals in this ecosystem. These are just people who are using electricity and or profiting from it. Commercial energy producers are also in this ecosystem. They are basically the commercial energy producers are basically in the energy ecosystem, but might not be in the energy in the renewable energy community of Stanzertal. And then in black you have the two users, basically because they are involved in the system, but they are not directly profiting from the system in ways of that they but they are necessary for the system, which would be the grid operator Kindberg and various contractors like a management contractor who is monitoring the whole blockchain system and providing the infrastructure. Indirect stakeholders are people who are not really connected to the energy ecosystem, which would be consultants, service providers, funding agencies, and last but not least, regulators and supervisory bodies. We will see in the further process that the legal situation and respective the law is a very significant factor in the design of token economic system. Just quickly to see the two different systems, the energy economic ecosystem and the Stanz voucher economic system. we looked at both and we said that the Stanz energy token would be basically a token exchange process which was based on energy. So the prosumer would produce energy, and the produced energy would be sort of like featured as an energy token, and it would go into the wallet. Now the prosumer could decide to give the energy token to another partner, or use the energy token for himself, or store it for later. If there is an exchange between the party A and party B, this exchange would be that the energy token would go to the partner B, and an amount of euros would go back to the partner A. The same could be that if you didn't want to use euros, you could also have a second possibility, which would be that the energy token would go from partner A to partner B, or partner B to partner A, and it would be paid later and repaid by with tokens. The energy will always be produced and fed into the grid, and the token will be produced as an equivalent. The infrastructure which we recommended here, or we looked at, it would be a private blockchain, which means it's not going on any of the big chains, but you have several nodes which are locally running in a cloud. That would be basically, for example, the municipality could run one of the nodes, then the renewable energy community as an entity could run off the nodes, and a third node would be located, for example, at some stakeholder from the users. The smart contracts are set up to run the system, and the wallets would be a custodial software. The user-side application would be that they would need a PC or a smartphone, and of course there would be software for businesses to read the blockchain transaction. And the governance, the mechanism of changing the rules of the system, there would be an on-chain governance that would be with the smart contracts, and an off-chain governance, which would be basically some of the rules would be placed outside of the system. That would be, for example, the renewable energy community, who would have an off-chain governance. The Stanz voucher token is a little bit more complex. It is issued by the municipality, and the wallet of the municipality would then issue the Stanz voucher token to the wallets of the citizens, which then could use the voucher token for the exchange of regional products. They could exchange for services, for example, or for anything that is defined by the economic system, by the underlying economic system. Very important is that the purposes of the two systems are, the Stanz voucher token is there to strengthen the local economy. That means that it is a token that should be in circulation for a very long time. And if we go back to the Stanz energy token, the Stanz energy token has the first and utmost reason that it is based on energy, and energy is volatile. That means that the Stanz energy token should be consumed as fast as possible. We will come back to that maybe in the discussion. Basically, the tech components and the governance, also here it would be a quick, the speed of this, the transactions from the Stanz voucher token should be high, so it should be a private blockchain with several nodes. The system is the same. Basically, the governance would be off-chain by the municipality. And you would have to think about how much decentralization a very centralized system as the Stanz voucher token would need, because basically it's the municipality that is issuing it. If you merge the two systems, you would have the Stanz voucher token that is quite centralized because it's issued by the Gemeinde Stanz. The token is pegged to the euro. That means that the voucher is very clearly basically a symbol of the euro, which is issued by the community of Stanz, which is very important from a legal perspective, because the national bank does not allow any other currency aside from the euro, and that's a rule that is worldwide, basically. It is obtained via purchase, and its purpose is to foster the regional economy. And it is the user perspective, it is used in lieu of the euro. So there is an analog accessibility also for it. You could buy it basically as a paper voucher as well, or you could buy it on a digital level. That would be the recommendation if we had the Stanz voucher token. The energy token, on the other hand, it's decentralized because there are several producers, there are several points of creation. It could be transferred in a way that you say it's a kilowatt hour would equal 1 token, and it would be obtained via energy production or a purchase on a marketplace. The automatization and the documentation and management of energy flows is the primary purpose of the energy token. So it should be consumed as apps, so it shouldn't be stored away, because that means that you would have to store away the energy as well. And it loses value because kilowatt hours lose value over time. And sort of like value in this way, I mean impact. And the payment function is secondary. The user perspective, it's quite technical, and it's only digitally accessible, and it needs understanding of energy consumption, which is very important. So the conclusion for us was, for several reasons, when we looked at both systems, that the systems have different purposes, and if you would merge the existing Stanz voucher token with the energy token, it would add an unnecessary complexity to both systems. And it would be legally quite uncertain if it was advisable and also feasible to create a token that is pegged to the euro in terms of the voucher and the kilowatt, the energy token. That is just one reason. Maybe in the discussion I will come up with other reasons. The options and the outlook we were proposing at the end of the paper is either you look at both systems and develop both systems separately, but in terms of costs and technical implementations considered, we thought it would be better to focus on only one system, which would be clearly the energy token, to manage and monitor energy and to sort of like achieve goals of the renewable energy community, like peak shaving, for example, to like certain autonomy in energy production, and focus on these goals. The simulation of the system, of course, should be the next step, which would mean that we collect concrete figures for formal and mathematical specification. And we recommend that we start with a minimal viable process and a very narrow focus, and that would be the energy flows with the photovoltaic installation on the school. Okay, I'm sorry that I had to sort of like wrap it up like this, but I will come back to questions in the discussion.